I would now like to invite our guest of honor, Mr. Ashish Hemrajani, founder of Book My Show, to say a few words.
Firstly, thank you for having me, and that's a tough act to follow. My life is very different from Mitch's. If you watch the movie Forrest Gump, I'm the Forrest Gump guy. I grew up in Bombay, in an area in Juhu. I was born there. My speech, my piano, my schooling, my college, my office, my dogs, everything is in Juhu. I'm 45. And 5 years ago, I did something really disruptive. I moved homes. And I moved 500 meters down the road. And I still live in Juhu. And I go to work on a cycle. And I don't feel the need to do anything. I travel the world, but I come back. And nothing's changed. So I'm born to immigrant parents. Both my parents are Sindhis who came from Pakistan when the partition happened. My father came to Delhi and was a refugee for 10 years. And then he studied in Banaras Hindu University. My mother was a school teacher in Kanpur. My dad then went and started a business in Gorakhpur. And about 55 years ago came to Bombay to start a family where I was born. And so the jeans that I'm wearing are not the jeans I'm talking about. My jeans are the ones that I think I can take a risk because I came with nothing, my parents came with nothing, and I don't fear failure. In fact, in my family, failure is maybe not encouraged, but celebrated. Encouraged would be the wrong word, otherwise I wouldn't be standing here. Having said that, a lot of people ask me, how did Book My Show happen? Like I said, life just happens for me. I studied in Bombay. I finished my college schooling. I finished my MBA. I actually wanted to be a filmmaker. I thought I had a great right brain. And I wanted to go to the Film and TV Institute of India. And there was a strike and I couldn't make the cut because it was on break for 6 months. And so I finished my commerce, just like some of you, or the institute here. I then went and did an MBA. And then I worked for an advertising agency called J. Walter Thompson. And so how did Book My Show start? Book My Show started because of smoking and drinking. I don't smoke. But at that time, my office was a smoking office. And 21 years ago, 25 years ago in India, if you watch the series Mad Men, the advertising agencies in India used to be like the Mad Men series. On Fridays, everybody would drink. Everybody smoked, the person in front of me, behind me, to the right of me, left of me. And secondary smoke can get to you. I don't have a problem with other people smoking, but I don't want to breathe that smoke. And so I decided to metaphorically and physically clear my head and take a holiday. So I'd made a lot of money on a salary of 8,000 rupees a month, and I had collected 60,000 rupees in 2.5 years. And so I went on a backpacking trip to South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. And so my air ticket, my bungee jumping, my whitewater river rafting, hitchhiking, I got mugged. I went to Chobe Muremi Sabuti National Park in Botswana. I was in Zimbabwe. I was in South Africa. I backpacked from Joburg to Cape Town. And at Storms River Valley, I heard a radio commercial trying to sell rugby tickets online. And they said, you know what? If you buy tickets online, you will be able to jump the queue. You'll get a discount on the merchandise. And you know what? You'll get a discount coupon for your next purchase. And I grew up in India, and some of you probably were just a thought in your parents' mind at that time. But when I used to go to the movies in India, I remember going to Sterling, Regal, and you had pigeonholes, and you had a current booking counter, an advanced booking counter. Some guys with receding hairlines are, nodding their head here because they've gone through this. And I remember that you would have dress circle, stall and current, dress circle, stall and balcony. And you had to stand in your specific line. And if the tickets ran out, then you got out of the line and got into a new line. And there were timings for box offices. And I'm like, it's such a shit show. And growing up in India, we just came to accept and say, this is the way it is. And here I was trying to listen to a radio commercial. And so this was under a big tree at Storms River Valley. A lot of people don't know this, that Book My Show is just the brand name. The name of the company, even 21 years later, is Big Tree Entertainment Private Limited. It was like Buddha getting his enlightenment, but little did I know that the world of entertainment is a world of hell and pain. But it is fun as well, and that's why I do what I do. And so I continued down the garden route. I reached Stellenbosch. And when I reached Stellenbosch, it's the wine growing region of South Africa. It's like the Napa of the US. And you can pay 5 rands or 10 rands, or you get free wine. You know, to an Indian, you give cutting chai, he behaves very differently. You give a glass of red wine and they're all checking viscosity, taking it through their teeth and their palate, and they all spit it out. Like I said, I'm a Sindhi, which is the Jew of the East. I'm not wasting anything free. So I kept drinking and drinking and drinking. And I drank from 11 in the morning to 3. I don't say that you should, but I drank from 11 to 3. I was drunk out of my brains. I woke up in a youth hostel on a bunk bed that wasn't mine the next morning. And I'd send the most expensive text message of my life to my boss, saying, I hate my job. This is what I don't like. This is what I don't like. And you've got to change that. And she just replied and said, you're fired. So I came back without a job in 1999 at the age of 24. And I said, what do I do? And so I built a business plan. A week later, I sent a fax to Chase Capital Partners JP Morgan because sending an email was painful. It was a TCP IP account which made a lot of noise. As you'd remember, with the modem, it would make this funny sound. It would take maybe half an hour to 45 minutes to connect. Fax was easy. I went down, sent a fax. A week later, at the age of 24, I had $500,000 in my bank account, in my savings bank account. I could have taken the money and run. That's how Book My Show started. And that's the truth. No grand story, no great plans. It just happened. 99 was a very different period. You had no internet penetration. There was no credit card, no debit cards, no net banking, no unified number policy, no nothing. In spite of that, we built a business to say, we're going to solve a consumer problem that exists in India. And we're going to solve it come what may. And so we started buying inventory. And we started buying inventory because there was no trust. So we would go to movie theaters, we would go to concerts, we would go to live events, we would go to the cricket stadium where there was black marketing, there was arbitrage in information, no democracy in information. You were getting cheated by going there and the guy would say no tickets available, but guys and touts would be selling tickets outside. And it was just an unfair practice. And so we started buying tickets. And on the weekend, we had an opportunity loss because we could sell more. But on the weekdays, we had an actual loss because nobody wanted to buy tickets. But if you know what an NPS is, a net promoter score, which you want to keep high, every time we would sell our 20, 30 tickets, people would still call us for a big movie. And if you didn't answer the phone, you'd break trust and the guy wouldn't call you the next weekend. So we would still have people picking up the phone and answering and saying, sorry, no tickets available. So in the internet business or in entrepreneurship, as your cost curve flattens, your revenue curve keeps rising, that arbitrage is where you create value for yourself. In our case, the cost curve kept going up as the revenue curve flattened. It was exactly the opposite. It was like a Giffin's paradox of economic theory. And so this wasn't sustainable. We had 7 call centers in 7 cities because there was no internet, even though we had a website. We would do home delivery of tickets. We were the first company probably in the world, if not in India, which did cash on delivery. That is a business I swore I would never do. So Book My Show is 100% digital payments. All of the guys are doing cash on delivery. They all use money on a unit economic basis. And that is what Mitch was talking about of stupid startups, right? That's not a problem you need to solve. You need to disrupt. And so we continued down the path. And I would run 7 different call centers with 7 different numbers, with 7 different marketing campaigns. So my cost was into 7, but my revenue was 1x. And so in 2001, we got invested by News Corp. And by 2002, the dot-com bust that started in the US hit me in India. And I went from 150 people down to 6. I was wiped out. I had an office in Prabhadevi Industrial Estate. And the carpet was pulled under my feet. And the money dried up. And so I took 144 employees to Shivaji Park because I couldn't afford a conference room or a venue like this. And people had tears in their eyes. And that was my first lesson in karma and payback. because I said, why are you crying? And they said, we're not, and I thought because they were losing their jobs, and they said, no, we'll find a job. But what about you 6 guys? And that's when I said, I've got to do something about it. So I went back to News Corp and I said, hey, listen, I need a 6-month severance package for my employees, otherwise I'm going to sue your ass. And they said, no, we can't give you that. And they said, no, I got a guy in New York to write a letter, one of my friends from a New York firm, and I said, payable when able. And we sent a notice. And they said, okay, but what you've got to do is help us wind down the company. I said, sure. And that's when I decided that karma pays you back. Karma can be very kind and karma can be really, really hard. But you've got to walk the right path all your life. And so when I did that and I parked myself for 6 months, I was able to place 80% of those 144 people after giving them a 6-month severance. But most of them today are vice presidents and presidents in various organizations in the entertainment world, across the world and in Asia. And they all give business back to us because they owe us. Not because I wanted them to, but today, after 20 years on, or maybe 15 years on, I did the right thing and it's paying back. The second thing is when I helped News Corp wind down the company, I realized that there was intrinsic value in the company. And I said, I want to do a slum sale. That's the first time I heard of a word slum sale. You guys now are more aware of angels and VCs and Series A and all of that. I had no idea. And I did a slum sale. So I went to them and I said, I'm going to buy back the company. And they said, you know, there's a black hole in New York. And so you've got to pay $100,000 to buy back the company. $100,000, 50 lakh rupees in that time. So just like Jewish mothers, Sindhi mothers are the same. They are partial to their boys. I went to my mom and I said, listen, I need $100,000, which is 50 lakh rupees, but you can't tell dad. She said, look, I've been skimming him for years. I have 4 lakhs in the bank, but where will I get 50 lakhs? I said, you've got to give me 50 lakhs. So the only apartment that we owned, where my sister, me, my parents lived, was in her name. Because most Indian men believe their wives are lucky, and the apartment was in her name. It worked out well. My mom said, we'll go to the bank. I still remember on a Thursday, we went to Saraswat Cooperative Bank. This was the days when banking wasn't an online thing, but bank managers actually spoke to people. And so we went to the bank manager, mortgaged the house. Next Friday, I had the money. So I bet the house, if I had screwed it up, we'd be on the street today. I told her, and I promised her I'd pay her back in 10 years. I paid her back in 18 months. The good part is that I told my father only 4 years ago, when he was 3 malts down, that the house that he lived in didn't belong to him and he didn't really care. So 2002, we were wiped out. But those were the best lessons that I learned in life. And we continued the business in 2002, where every alternate light bulb in my office was switched off. We never used tissue paper. We scrimped and saved money there. In the heat in Bombay and humidity, we had no air conditioning. I would go across in Bandra to an STD booth because I couldn't afford 300 rupees to have a phone call. I couldn't make long distance phone calls. So I would go across the street from a booth, a PCO booth, and make phone calls to my clients in Delhi. And they'd hear all this noise. And they were like, why is it so noisy? And I'm like, we're very busy. Actually, in the office, kutte bhauk rahe the. There was not a soul in my office. But, I would say we're busy. I remember taking the August Kranti Express, which was a chair car, instead of Rajdhani. And what you do on flights today, I would take the 4 o'clock train, chair car, 16 hours, 18 hours, reach Delhi the next morning, get ready at the station, go do my client meetings 4 or 5, and then take the train back and come back the next evening all night so I could save money on 2 hotel rooms, but still achieve my 5 meetings. We would reuse all the paper and photocopied machines as booklets. We would reuse envelopes, the pins, take the pens where the refill was over and refill them. And we still do that at Book My Show today. So it's not about how much money you make, but it's how much money you save. You've got to be nimble. You've got to be conscious of the environment. You've got to be conscious of your costs. And you've got to build the business the right way and have a startup or an entrepreneurial mentality. Most companies die out of indigestion than starvation. All the companies that are getting funded are fat. And when they get paid so much money, and when you look at these Economic Times reports and you look at these unicorns, I'm telling you, it's bullshit. Unicorn is a horse with a horn. It's ugly. Have you seen a unicorn in your life? It's a mythical animal. It doesn't exist. So people ask me, I go to places like yours and I go to reporters and they ask me a question. If you're not a unicorn, which we are, by the way, by the definition of Economic Times, so we are over $1 billion in value, somebody would ask me and say, but kuch to animal honge, you must be some animal if not a unicorn. I'm like, I'm a cockroach. I've survived for 20 years. You open a microwave oven, you'll find us there. There's a nuclear holocaust, you'll find us there. Try to get rid of us, we're still around. 20 years on, we still call ourselves a startup. Other guys can come, the Chinese can come, the Americans can come, they can get funded companies. We still beat everybody's pants off and we're still around. And we're still 80-90% market share. And so how do you do it? And I'm like, you know what? If you want a real analogy, I'm a mongrel. I'm a dog on the street. If somebody pets you, be kind. If there's a shady spot, sit there. Somebody gives you food, have gratitude. If there's a pack of dogs, run. You will always find another day to fight your battle. Be a dog, be a mongrel. You're free, you're an entrepreneur, you can do what the hell you want. No, you're not answerable to anybody. And so, 2002 to 2007, I built the backbone of the business and the foundation. And in that, what we did was we built our own CRM. I built my own tech team. I didn't go to SAP. I didn't go to Adobe. We went and built our own systems internally without depending on anybody outside. A, it was cheaper. B, we did not want our data to get out and we wanted to build it our way. So today we have a product design engineering team of over 450 people because we build everything in-house. We don't outsource anything. We used a lot of common sense, and common sense is not very common. I say that because nowadays everybody goes and says, hey, listen, I'm going to use a delivery service. You know, they have this really cool machine where you can get a digital signature and you can come to know. At that time, guys, there was no smartphones, no cameras, no connectivity. And I would have World Cup tickets delivered to neighbors because the guy wasn't there and he'd say, deliver it to my neighbor. Neighbors would turn on neighbors and say, I didn't get the tickets. I don't have your tickets. And so we started doing non-delivery receipts through the door description. So the guy would call up our customer and say, you never showed up. And we'd say, is your door blue? Does it have a horseshoe? And does it have a golden grill? And the guy'd say, how do you know? Because we were there. We captured the door description. It was a simple common sense solution, which today you can go to a McKinsey or a Bain or a BCG, do a big consulting project, then go to SAP, pay millions of dollars to tell you this is how you should actually do a non-delivery receipt. Or they will tell you how you should change your light bulbs to save $1 million per year by just changing the capacity of your bulbs or putting LEDs. You don't need that. You already know the answers. But as entrepreneurs, you always want to sort of go somewhere else to find those answers. So have confidence in yourself. Then we built our own CRM. And we said, how do you whitelist, blacklist people? How do you build your CRM? True story, change name. We used to have a guy called Mr. Khanna who used to call us every time in Delhi, buy 4 tickets for a family movie and the delivery address would be his home. Every time he bought a sleazy movie for 2 tickets, it would be for Liberty or Sangam Cinema. The delivery address would be his office. Khanna was having an affair. I knew it, he knew it, nobody else needed to know it. But if I delivered the tickets the other way around, his marriage would break up. So, how do you save data and how do you keep it secure? Then we had a guy called Pappu Pelwan. Every time he would buy 3 tickets, the 4th transaction, he would snatch the ticket, bang the door and not pay us. How do you blacklist and whitelist customers? Many years ago on relationship, CRM is about relationship. It's not about a tech tool. So when you guys are building and innovating, it's not about technology tools. It's about finding solutions for your consumers where you're building a relationship and making their lives better by making your lives better, by improving every day. How do you wake up every day and say, what am I going to do today? My Monday mornings have to be as exciting as Friday evenings. The day that equation changes, I've got to stop doing one of the two. And so it's very important for you to wake up and feel challenged and come to work every day. And so for 20 years on, my motivation levels haven't changed. And the reason is because we find solutions every day. So I'll give you one example and then I'll come to the present. So in this period of 2002 to 2007, we started doing CRM, ERP, all of that. And you have this event that we now own called Sunburn, which is an EDM festival on the beaches of Goa. So we had a situation with a kid. So here's the situation. This is a kid who's studying in Pune, but is originally from Delhi, is in Goa. He has a beer, he has an issue, he faints. His call comes to our customer care center in Bombay, which is 24/7. I'm on a vacation diving over New Year's in Thailand. And it bubbles up to me and says, we need to use area triangulation or cell site triangulation to be able to identify and pinpoint his location so our ops teams can go in and take him to the medical tent. Fair enough. I said, go for it. You can do that because every time you download an app, you are basically signing your life, including us, because you're giving us all your information. We know if you use Uber, you use Ola, you use Zomato, you use any of these apps, a Google app or anything, you have given away all your rights. As long as the company hold themselves to great standards to be able to do the right thing with that data. When you sign up on a Microsoft contract, you've actually given up a lot of your rights. Having said that, so we went in to figure out what this kid was. We thought it was a drug issue. So my ops team went in, did everything. Basically, the kid was having a spike in his brain activity. And he basically just needed some medication over the next 2 years where he got 30 minutes extra to write a paper. So he's from Pune, mother is from Delhi, calls us in Bombay. The event is happening in Goa. And we were able to figure all of this out through adequate use of technology to be able to pinpoint, get him to a medical test. But that's not where we stopped. My team the mother is still buying tickets on Book My Show. Every year on that anniversary, we still make a phone call or send an email to the mother asking how he is. He's actually in the UK doing really well and he's working at Credit Suisse today. And that is what customer relationship management is. It's not about a tool, which you write a tool on. So where is Book My Show today? We're actually a very private, I don't do too many talks. We're a very, very quiet, private, behind the scene company. Thank you. This is very private information, but I'll share it with you so that you know what the scale is and what it can become and how you do it. We have close to 100 million subscribers on our mobile app. We sell 20 million tickets a month. We do $1 billion in sales a year. We do 60 million monthly active users. We do 200 million visits every month. And we do 5 billion page views. And we still don't call ourselves a unicorn. And that is because you just put your head down, enjoy what you do, and forget the newspapers. Because nobody gives a rat's ass. Because next day in the morning, it's going to be used for bhel puri at some stall. So why do you even bother what they write about you? What matters is what you do. And for me, what's important is we do beers, chip and dip every Friday on our terrace. But I also run a Vedanta class in office every Tuesday. And the reason I do that is because I'm not very religious. I haven't been to a temple except for historical or archaeological purposes. But I believe, I don't know if you know the Bhagavad Gita. It is Krishna's discourse to Arjuna on the battlefield of Mahabharata. Krishna basically said that if your intent is good and the end is important, your means can be completely wrong, right? And so Krishna was a cheat. He kept the sun up even though the battle was getting over. He cheated. He did insider trading by telling Arjun the weak spot of Karuna. That's how he killed him. And basically he had a lot of women around him. How is he God? If he can be called God, then so can I. And so I started playing God at Book My Show. I don't know if you realize that every time you buy a ticket on Book My Show, you pay 1 rupee per ticket for something called Book a Smile. Now, if I were to do a opt-in for 1 rupee a ticket, nobody would actually pay that money. So you want to buy a 700 rupee ticket, a 500 rupee ticket, or a U2 concert ticket for 10,000, but you don't want to pay 1 rupee a ticket. And how can you be a change maker? How can you make a difference? How can you draw from society, create value, and give back as an entrepreneur, not just for yourself, but to society? And so if you realize, and this is what I want to tell you makers, and I could be completely politically incorrect here, but I want to make sure that you understand this. You know, India has 28 states, so many union territories, socioeconomic classes, so many languages, so much diversity in food. That's great to tell foreigners. You know, it gives them a real kick about India. The real India as we know it, the top 100 million Indians, which is you guys in this room, I call you the United Kingdom of India. You speak in English, have private school and colleges, private healthcare, and you have all the opportunity in the world. The next 400 million Indians, I call them the Brazil of India. They speak in the local language. They don't have the opportunity you have. And their second language could be Hindi, Telugu, English or whatever, but it's the first language is their state language. And they don't have the opportunities you do. And that is the emerging middle class. And what is defined by the emerging middle class, even a 30, 40,000 rupee salary a month, 30,000 is emerging middle class. Your driver today gets 20,000 bucks. The last 700 million Indians who we are leaving behind, I call them the Africa of India. Underserved, undernourished, and exploited by the 100 million douchebags like us. Because when you have a maid at home, you have a driver at home, you want them to come 7 days a week. But your child, if he is overworked by one Saturday, the mother has a problem. But otherwise, maids at home and help at home have to work 7 days a week. They take 1 day off and you have a problem. And I think this is the underserved society that we as entrepreneurs, as makers, as the new millennials or the Y generation have to solve for with what you build. And so with Book My Show, what I did was, using Krishna's discourse, I did a Times New Roman gray font which was 6 in size, and it was an opt-out rather than opt-in. Do you know 86% of my customers don't realize that there's an opt-in 1 rupee, and I collect 10 crores a year on Book a Smile. And the 6 people that run Book a Smile, all their expenses are paid for by Book My Show. And I support 300 girls in Jharkhand who are Naxal's daughters, whose entire soccer program is funded by us. And every year, 6 of them go to the UEFA Level 1 coaching for Real Madrid and Real Sociedad. The double amputee kid went to the Paralympics, he won the silver medal. All the acid and rape victims' daughters in Dharavi, we run a program called Just for Kicks, and their entire soccer program is run by us and gives them confidence so that they don't go into that same flesh trade or face the same consequences or are not ostracized by society. We have created a basketball court. All the RTOs, children's, because they are in smoke, overworked all the time, and they have respiratory problems. Their entire kids' education in terms of the right brain activity on music, on art, on speech, on plays, on concerts and events, and all of those lovely things which nobody focuses on except for food, shelter, clothing, math, physics, chemistry. We don't care about all that stuff. We focus on all of that. And it all comes out of this fund. So we have involved consumers like you to be able to give back to society. Then I said, I can't stop here. And so 4 years ago, an office boy in my company came and I had leftover food. And I said, why don't you eat some? And he says, I can't eat it. And I thought he was being respectful, this stupid hierarchy system in the office, in the country. And I said, no, you've got to eat this food. And he said, I won't be able to digest it. And I said, what do you eat? And he says, I eat 20 rupees worth. You and I are defined by what we want to eat. He's defined by the price. And so I said, I've got to change that. So today, I play Robin Hood. We have a food program in the company where you can take 5 meals a week or 28 meals a month. And the food costs me about 80 bucks, but all of us pay 125. But anybody whose salary is 30,000 and below and will not cross 50,000 in the next 4 years gets the same meal at 20 bucks. So I've involved my employees who are paying for them. And then we started a voluntary program where you put in money and everybody who's in this bracket, their kids' education for life is funded by employees who are doing a voluntary funding. Now, if a person leaves the company, our relationship with their child continues for life. We don't stop the relationship just because your employment stopped. And then I went to my board and I said, all the 1,600 people that work at Book My Show, we're now in 7 countries. We're in Singapore, we're in Malaysia, we're in Jakarta, we have 45 people there, we're in Sri Lanka, we're in Dubai, and we're in Riyadh. And everybody's Mediclaim and their term life plan is also funded by the company because that's something that the state doesn't care of. So what I'm trying to say is that if you have a purpose in life and you make your work and you mix both of them, and the purpose could be you want to create more entrepreneurs, you want to create more makers, you want to be able to draw from society, you want to be able to appeal to people's consciousness, you want to be able to create more opportunities for people. Let your work be able to draw from society, create value, and give back. And if at some level, while doing that, we create India's largest ticketing company, Asia's largest live events company, probably Asia's largest venue company for live events, a merchandise business, an investing powerhouse where we've got more than 14 investments from the company, not my own angel investments, kids from IIT Kanpur who've created a venture called Townscript, which went from 40 lakh rupees GMV a month to 12 crores a month for the last 11 months, and gone from number 5 to number 1. And now they're going to Dubai, they're going to Singapore. It gives me I have a lot of gratitude in life to be able to do that, but I did it my way. I did it correctly, and I was able to give value back. And I know my purpose. I know my Monday mornings are as exciting as my Friday evenings. The day that equation changes, you'll find me on my boat somewhere sailing, having a drink in my hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ashish.